How's it going, guys? Cody back again, dropping out another video. Right, guys, this time it's prison news. As you can see from the title, it's on prison suicides. Shocking figures, these guys. The journalist that's wrote the story is a guy called Scott Hesketh. Follow Scott on Twitter. He follows me back. This is a story in the Daily Star. He's not staff for the Daily Star. He works freelance and he sells stories to whichever newspaper will buy him. Headline reads, "Prison suicide epidemic. 43 inmates have taken their own lives in just 6 months." A suicide crisis is gripping Britain's struggling jails. In the first 6 months of this year, 43 inmates have taken their own lives in prisons in England and Wales. 41 of them were men. Our investigation found 2/3 were in their 20s or 30s. The youngest was 19-year-old Aaron Cook, who had mental health problems. He took his own life at Brinsford Prison in Staffordshire on the 25th of March. In the space of just 20 days after Christmas, 5 prisoners were found dead in their cells. The grim toll began on January the 4th. Ben Kelby, 32, was awaiting to be sentenced for crimes including assault and harassment when he killed himself in Manchester's notorious Strangeways jail. Paedophile Daniel Davey, 22, was found dead in his cell at HMP Bullingdon in Oxfordshire on January the 12th, just 6 weeks into a 6.5-year sentence for abusing a 5-year-old boy. On the same day, rapist Louis Thomas, 38, took his own life at HMP Isle of Wight. A day later, Joseph Haas, 38, was high on zombie drug spice when he killed himself at HMP Chelmsford, despite being on suicide watch. On January the 14th, Lee Evans hanged himself after just 3 nights at a prison, accused by the prison's watchdog of inexcusable failures. He was due to serve a 6-week stretch in Swansea jail for petty crime, but officers found him hanged in his cell using a bedsheet he had tied to the bars. There was one more death in January before a further 8 in February. Anthony Payne, 35, was just weeks from being released when he hanged himself in HMP Liverpool. Weeks before his death, Payne had sent his mother Janet a letter stating that nobody was doing anything to help him and pleading, "Help me." His sister Chelsea said despite her brother's long history of self-harming, the prisoner appeared to have no care plan in place for him and accused the justice system of giving him a death sentence. On February the 25th, Simon Mellows, 56, who was supposed to be on suicide watch in Strangeways, was found hanged whilst on remand, accused of murdering his lover. A total of 12 suicides came in March and April. They included 26-year-old Lee Thrumble, who was serving time for violent offences at Rochester Young Offenders Institute in Kent. Days later, Marcus Maguire, 35, was found dead in his cell at crisis-hit Birmingham Prison's D Wing. Sources claim the prisoner may have been dead for some time before he was discovered at the former G4S Ram jail. Kieran Simpson, 29, became the 3rd prisoner to kill himself at Strangeways during the first 6 months of this year. He was one of 7 suicides in May that included that of sadistic murderer Michael Humphreys, 54. He was serving life at Long Larton in Worcestershire for strangling and butchering an Oxford academic in 2006. There were 8 suicides in June, including that of Ricky Coombs, 25, who died at HMP Lewes in East Sussex. A report by Her Majesty's Chief Inspector of Prisons in 2016 said more than a quarter of prisoners at the jail reported feeling depressed or suicidal. Campaigners have warned the system in crisis as self-harm in the UK prisons reaches record highs. In the 12 months of June, there were 49,565 incidents of self-harm, up 20% from the previous year. Deborah Cole, director of the campaign group Inquest, said self-inflicted deaths, homicides, self-harm, drugs and assaults are an epidemic in the prison system. This reflects a system in crisis, failing its duty of care to staff and prisoners. Short-term fixes are not working, ministerial focus on violence ignores the shocking death toll, and we need a radical overhaul. We need to tackle sentencing policy, reduce the prison population, and redirect resources to community services. Then there's a little mini story within the story. It says, how could my son hang himself in a modern jail? Mental health nurse Angie Evans' son Lee was found hanged in his cell just 3 nights after arriving at overcrowded Swansea prison. Here she shares her story. From when he went in to when he was found dead, his mood had changed very quickly. He wasn't being looked after properly. How on earth could Lee, or all the others before him, be allowed to hang themselves in their cells in a modern day prison? Surely with the number of suicides the place has had, They would have learned and put measures in place to stop young men, from taking their own lives. The bottom line is it's not fit for purpose. And I was the one who had the knock on the door to be told my son had hung himself. It's devastating and it beggars belief. I always had it in the back of my mind that a knock on the door might come, but never in a million years did I think it would come from prison officers. None of the reports into suicides have addressed the one thing that needs addressing, the environment. I'm a mental health nurse with a background in secure facilities, so I know the one thing you have to do is take away the opportunity for self-harming. Yet when I arrived in my son's cell, there was a mirror with breakable glass shutters for the bars, not to mention the bars themselves, and the sheets. It was a self-harm's paradise. Something has to be done, or more young men will kill themselves, and that's as unacceptable as it gets. Yeah, I don't like reading these stories, guys. It's not good. My thoughts and prayers go out to anybody who's lost someone in those circumstances. That loved one may have ended up on a prison stretch and tragically took their own life. I speak to these prisoners' families on a regular basis. Spoken to the mother of Anthony Payne, who took his own life in February at Walton Jail. Spoke to Ben Kelby's sister over WhatsApp. God bless Ben Kelby, may rest in peace. God bless Anthony Payne, may rest in peace. I've spoken to Paul Jones' twin sister. I've spoken to Michael Galtras, the son of Ian Galtras, who took his own life in Walton prison, or HMP Liverpool. He's actually getting buried, cremated tomorrow, actually, in Birkenhead. God bless him, may rest in peace. My thoughts and prayers with his family. Damien Anderson. I mean, the names just come off the trip, like off the tongue. But you know what the thing is, guys? Nobody. Do you know what? These figures are shocking and alarming, guys. Is anybody doing anything? No. Did they know how to do anything? No, they don't care. Prisoners, man. They're like, we're disposable to the system, aren't we? We're just a number. We're outside, we're a number, we're a crime statistic. We go to prison, we're a prison number. We come out of prison, we're just reoffending rates. You know what I mean? The facts are, guys, these people in prison are human beings. And prisons should be places of reform and rehabilitation, right? Reintegration and resettlement. Doesn't take place in prison. Rehabilitation is a made-up word. It's a politician's word. I'm sick of saying this. It's a politician's word, so people like the Prisons Minister Rory Stewart and the Justice Secretary David Gauke can wear suits getting paid 120, 130, 140, 150,000 pounds a year. People are dying on their watch. And they're tackled. Oh, we're going to focus on the drugs. It's all the prisoners. They don't acknowledge, like Rory Stewart now, the Prisons Minister, he's been at Wormwood Scrubs today, shadowing an officer, doing a few hours, right? If you want to get an experience of prison, Rory, the Prisons Minister, right? Simple. Put yourself in a cell, lock yourself behind your door. Do a week in jail. Live like the lads live. Because things would change overnight. But they don't, guys. Too busy kissing up to the prison officers. Prisons are suffering. Prison, do you know what, right? People think, right, as guys who do the whole macho thing, oh, prison's easy, yeah. Prison, people can do the jail. Not everybody. Prison fucks with your mind, it fucks with your head. Little things are big things become mountains. Mountains can make your head explode. Relationships broke down, family relationships broke down if you haven't already. Mental health plays a significant part. Being locked behind your door for sustained periods of time, right? And then, like I say, mental health and dark thoughts set in and stuff. The human warehouses for vulnerable and susceptible people, guys. People in prison, before they were ever offenders, they was victims. And actually, for the most part, they're some of the most vulnerable people in society. Yes, they've committed crime. Not all of them. We've got miscarriages of justice. We've got people that are just on remand, not guilty of an offence, and that will be found innocent at trial, or the case will be dropped before trial. And everyone's suffering in prison. It's like treading water. Some people will give you a boost up when you start to drown. Someone will boost you up. Other people try to push you under because you get bullies and stuff like that get off on it. Like I say, there's a lot of different attitudes and personalities on the wing. And like I say, if you are not of a strong mind or a strong character, you can become a victim in prison. And like I say, that is on top of the dark thoughts and the suicidal thoughts that are never far away. I contemplated suicide. Doesn't make me a weak person. At that moment, did prison bring me to my knees? Oh, you bet your life it did. Not ashamed to admit it. Can I handle my prison? 1,000,000%. Did prison bring me to my knees? Some people, it brings them to the knees once a week. Some people once an hour. Some people can't cope with prison. And like I say, you've got to look at the media used to write headlines of, oh, Butlins with bars and stuff. Nonsense. Absolute rubbish, guys. What's happening in prisons is a humanitarian crisis, and people are suffering immeasurably, and I won't shut up about it. Too many. If I just went to, there's not enough ex-cons that speak up, right? So if I went into the shadows and there's only a handful of people that speak out, a handful, right? I try to set up interviews for former prisoners, prisoners' families. I get them to the forefront. I push them towards interviews. Shout it from the rooftops, man. Get it out there. Keep the pressure on the system, on the Ministry of Justice. Don't suffer in silence. If I ever go back to prison, right, I'll get such a shit time because the screws will be on me. But like I say, guys, we need to speak up. We've got a platform. Social media has led to me, like I say, doing national interviews, local, national, radio, documentaries and stuff like that. And I'm not asked about being on telly or none of that shit. I prefer to push other people. Example, I'm going to London next Tuesday. If anyone's about, I'm heading to Shoreditch. Then I'm heading to Barbican, to the Prison Reform Trust office. But if anyone's about and wants to meet up, then give us a shout. But they rang me and wanted me. I was pushing other people, like dropping names. They was like, no, we want you. I was like, okay. But like I say, I like to push other people forward for these things. I'm looking to start interviewing prisoners' families and former prisoners, get the story out there. And what I'm hoping to do is get their story and then also like answer questions for my subscribers as well. Things like that. On that note, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Comment in the comments below. Link in the description. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.